All right. Hi, everybody. It's Connie from Illinois. And I am live here, just getting my comments set up. And I hope that you are doing great. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So I've got something kind of weird today. Hi, Christy. Thanks for watching. I'm not a big Christmas in July person, but Stampin' Up came out with this set and I was intrigued. So today I decided let's play with that. I'll show you that in a second. First, I want to tell you that Stampin' Up is having a 20% off sale of all of their two-tone cardstock. That includes single packs, that includes the multi-packs that come with the scrapbooking workshops, you know, like as a part of adjunct to that or whatever. So you can really cash in right now because you'll earn rewards, and at the same time you will get a discount of 20%. And so that's really, really cool. Sorry, I'm straightening my camera because it's driving me crazy that it's crooked. I don't know why I can't ever seem to get this straight. Anyway, so that is the cool sale that's happening, and it's only today through the 11th. That is it. If you have rewards built up, don't use them for this sale. Because kind of like how Close to My Heart did, you know, if you use your rewards on a sale item, you don't get the same discount. You want to earn rewards on the sale items, use the rewards on the higher priced, full priced items. And so I just wanted to let you know that. The other thing is they did an announcement that they're not going to have Celebration this year, and that's a very big announcement for Stampin' Up. A lot of people are up in arms over that, and a lot of people are really happy because that's, you know, that's the sale where you buy a certain amount and you get free product. And a lot of people were like, you know, that product wasn't stuff I really wanted anyway, and so now it's accumulating in my stash unused. And so what they're doing instead, which is I'm excited about, is that they're going to have a product of the month. And if you spend $75, you'll have the opportunity to buy that product at $5 to $7, something in that range. And it won't necessarily always be stamps, like Close to My Heart was always a stamp of the month. It could be something else. And so I'm intrigued. I can't wait to see what they do with that. Okay, so let's get started on this. So here's the Jolly Holly stamp set. It has a variety of small icon stamps, lots of messages, okay? So it's really nice for Christmas cards because lots of options there. The dies for it are the icons themselves. How, you know, you can see there's like the bell, the star, the poinsettia, the holly, and the leaf. There's also two frames. I don't know why I had them all together, but I do. And then the word joy. You can stamp the word joy and cut it out, or you can just cut out the word joy. And I did that just a moment ago. And so I will show you what that looks like. The other part of this is this die, which is a big background die. And this is a hybrid embossing folder. It is one of the thicker, like 3D style folders. And just like in the past, you know, there is a, I gotta turn it the right direction. Turn it the right direction, Connie. Okay, so there is a way that this sort of locks in to the embossing folder. Now, normally I just used mine today for the first time, and this one has me twisting and turning a little bit. And so what I'll probably do is make a Sharpie mark on my folder or put a tape on my folder and put a little something on my die so that I know which end goes where. It just makes it faster for me. But anyway, so that it locks in there, you put your paper in there and go. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. That's really fun. It's a great embossing folder in that it doesn't cut completely out. Let me show you what it does. So I have this little bin here of cuts that I've made. So here's one for example, how it cuts. It cuts around each leaf, and it's still connected in like 3 places. And you can see like the leaves are dimensional. See that? So you can then put that onto a surface just like that. You can pop your leaves up and curl them. You can put dimensionals behind the leaves to make them pop a little bit. I cut this in a couple of different, you know how we have the 2-sided cardstock, right? I cut one on the soft and one on the dark side because I thought it might be fun to layer them. And so since they're only connected by like 2 or 3 points per image, I went ahead and I cut a whole bunch like this. And I was like, you know, it might be kind of fun to just sort of see, you know, how that looks if you were going to, I don't know, layer them or something, because it's really easy to do, to cut those out. It takes like seconds to cut those out. And so that's kind of interesting, right? And so I thought, well, you could certainly do something like this and then, you know, layer them and, you know, move on, whatever. Or you could, because they're so dimensional, you could start using your mixed media products a little bit. So I did get out a few things just to play with these 2 panels, because, you know, why not? The gold, I told you I would show you what the joy looks like. I cut this out. Look how beautiful that is. It turns out really nice. So I took one panel and I popped up the leaves, just curled them with my fingers and glued it onto a gold panel, and then just putting the word joy on there, and boom, card made. I mean, that is really pretty. I do think that it's a little one-dimensional in the color. It needs a little something. And so I was like, okay, let's try this mixed media thing a little bit. So some of you received a polish kind of like this. These are, I don't know what brand this is, to be honest. It's an opal polish. It says cosmic. I can't read it. Mine's worn off. But basically, a lot of you received this kind of polish in the mail from me, because it was part of Stephanie's stash, and I have several of these also. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like. So it opens up and it's like a little pot of metallic polish, right? This is the same thing as like Rub and Buff, or, you know, some of those other brands that are just polishes. These have a sponge like this in the lid. Sorry, I have like trigger fingers, so I don't have a grip anymore. But you can rub that in there and just rub it directly onto your image, so you can pick up some of that color. and then just lightly rub it across your images, and the things that are elevated will pop up. Now, the problem I have with that is that mine is a little bit dry, and so I like to use like a sponge dauber, or a little dauber like this. Let me grab one. This is my glue one. I want to show you something with glue in a minute. But basically, so I'm just going to do this. You can reactivate this a little bit, like if yours is dry, kind of like mine. But anyway, I'm just going to go over this with a dauber, and look how cool that ends up looking. It has that really neat metallic shine, and you can do things like that on your cards. What I recommend, you know, I'm not a big mixed media user. I use some, but my products like this one tend to get a little dry in between because I mostly use them on holidays like Christmas and Halloween. So I tend to just buy the colors that I use during the holidays, like Christmas and Halloween. So I have a lot of gold and silver. I have like purples and teals and blacks. Hi, Margie. But these are kind of fun. They just give a different look, and when you get them brand new, they're pretty juicy, so you have to be a little bit careful about how much you're loading onto your dauber. But when they've been sitting for just a little bit, they're not quite as juicy, not quite as wet. So this is my one of my projects for today. I have a scrapbook page that I want to make today using these really cool leaves. Now, the other thing that I use a lot, which I don't know if most people even would consider it to be mixed media. A lot of times what I do is I put like a piece of wax paper or press and seal or something over that, and then put the lid on, and that way, I need to reattach that. That way it helps keep that moisture in there. You can add a little water or something to it to re-moisture it. But anyway, do you see how that adds a lot to the card? Just that little bit really seems to help a lot. It really is. On camera, it looks kind of blotchy, but in life, it is like, wow, that's so pretty. It's very pretty. The other thing, you could of course add gems to the berries. Now, I like stickles an awful lot, and I'm always like, which gold to use? Do I use the golder gold or the platinum gold? It doesn't matter what you use. They're going to look really great. So sometimes I'll just add a little gold to the berries, and you could make them red and really make them pop. I just wanted to stick with the gold and green, but you can see how cool that looks. And then when it dries, it's so dimensional and pretty. And it's a great way to add some bling without using up all of your bling on one card, because you would use a lot of gems if you were going to put gems on all of the berries here. So stickles is another great option. I have a lot of stickles. The other thing I wanted to show you, I'm going to put that aside to dry, but you can see just how pretty that's gonna be. And if I cut that frame out, I think that would look really nice. Like if I cut this frame out in gold or in 2 layers, like a gold and green, and then put the joy on top of it, I think that would be really pretty. So there's that as an option. All right, let's get this away from me so it will dry. Okay, the other thing that I have been playing around with a little bit are gilding flakes, gold leafing. I have had gold leafing flakes for many years, and I had even put mine away because, like, how often do you really use gold leafing? But this one was in Stephanie's stash. She bought it secondhand from Daisy Lane, and she hadn't had a chance to use it, to be honest. So I wanted to tell you that this green glue that Stampin' Up sells, it has 2 levels, right? It's totally wet when you first put it on, and then after it dries, it's still tacky. So I remember, like, when it first came out, we used it as envelope glue. Like, you would put it on the seal of an envelope and then it would stick shut because it never truly dried. But one of the things that you can do with gold leafing, you can make, I'm just gonna put a little puddle of glue out here. I don't want very much. And I'm gonna use my glue dauber and tap that on there. And then you can just put that glue where you want the gilding to go and let that dry for a moment. And what happens is it dries tacky, and then you can take this stuff and put it on there, and it will add like a gilding to wherever. You could put this on real fruit. You could put this on anything that you want gilding. A frame, you could put a little bit onto a frame. And so you just put it on. It's in flakes. You rub it on just like that. And then you take a brush, and it's better if it's like a stiffer brush. This one's not, but and then you just brush it off and remove the excess, and you end up with it gilded wherever you put the glue. See, I wasn't careful about my glue, so you can see though that it turns like gold wherever you had your glue. So if you were careful with your glue and you just put it in certain spots, you could use this gold leafing. Now, this was all the rage back in, like, I don't know, I want to say the 90s. It was like a thing everybody was doing, but it's a fun home dec project, even if you aren't into. I got glue on my cat. That's where my glue puddle was. So I used to use it on frames. Like, I'd go to garage sales and stuff and get secondhand frames, or go to an inexpensive frame and dress it up. You know what I mean? Anyway, so there's that. Now today, my real project is a scrapbook page, and we are going to do just a tiny bit of mixed media on it. What I want to do, I wanted to use those holly leaves, right? That is something that I really thought would be kind of fun. And then I started looking for a pattern, and I really like this pattern for a 2-page layout. And so this is one of the Close to My Heart patterns. This is from the Make It From Your Heart Volume 3. Really love it. And so this is what basically I decided to do today. And then papers, I was like, well, I need something that has that dark green in it. I started looking at all my papers that have dark green, and the pear paper has that mossy meadow dark green. That mossy meadow, I've already gone through like an entire pack of cardstock. It kind of matches, coordinates with New England ivy, which is an old retired color for close to my heart, which I really love. But this pear paper is very beautiful. It's hard to use because it's busy, but it's still very beautiful. And you can see we're using it in small amounts will really, you know, make it special. And if you get the pear stamp set and dies, the dies cut out like everything on this page. There's a die for the big pear, the double pears, the leaf, the flowers. So every single thing on this page can get cut out, which is really, it's really nice, see? So even the little, I think that even fits, I'm not sure. But it's a nice stamp set, and I'm like, it's pears, I don't know. And then, and some of it is just so much that it takes a little thought to decide how to use it. And this is my least favorite pattern, and at the same time I'm intrigued by it because it is so unique and different, and the back isn't all, I mean, it's more or less a neutral. So I thought, well, I can play with this and see what I can do with it. And I love the idea of like partridge in a pear tree, or what, you know, you think of that at Christmas, and I thought, you know, this might actually work. So we're gonna do that layout, and I went ahead and cut a border for it instead of the way what they did was they did a zip strip at the top of the page, and I decided to make a border all the way around because I wanted more of the green to be highlighted. And then the inside of each page is going to be like a French vanilla, like an off-white. And I decided, well, let's go ahead and use another mixed media. And so I got into my stash, and I have this Distress Spritz in fossilized amber. And fossilized amber is probably not a color that you would normally buy right off the bat, but to me, I buy everything in gold and silver to start with, and white or black. I mean, you know, I'm very boring when it comes to my mixed media stuff. Now, I normally have a splatter box. I get this out and I spritz it into the splatter box. I'm riding the ragged edge of disaster today, so I'm just gonna wing it and hope I don't get this all over my my stuff on my desk. I could get it everywhere because that is how I am. Now, here's what I did as a prep, and I hope you can see it. Over here is what it looks like when you just spritz and spray, and over here is what it looks like if you unscrew it and, you know, tap it to make drops. The big thing about this product is you need to make sure that it's shaken up well, because all of the pigments and things get sunk to the bottom, and you might think it's all shaken up. It may look it, but the stuff that's stuck to the bottom is what gives it its cool color. So I'm going to, I just want a little bit here in the corner. Boy, this is just crazy. So I'm gonna put a little in this corner, and then I want a little bit at the top over here. All right. And I think that's all I want. I may actually spatter just a little bit down here at the bottom, but not a lot. A lot of it's going to be covered up. All right. So while that's drying, that away. I'm gonna move this a minute. I'll show you what else I cut in preparation. So for each page, I cut a red square, and that is going to hold our photos. And then each page will have the pear paper on the side. And this is pretty in pink, I believe. No, petal pink. It is petal pink, which is actually more of a peach than a true pink. And I kind of went off of the package of what colors are included in the kit or in the paper. And so I went with that. We'll see how that works. And then the other thing that I did, I really wanted some florals at the bottom to go along with my leaves. And so I looked for the only florals that I have that are not retired, and Impressions of Bloom caught my eye. I could have used the flowers out of the pear pack, but these were bigger. I liked how these looked. And the other flower that I used is this one right here from the Jolly Holly, right there. Now I did not stamp them. I just cut them out. I may want to stamp them, I don't know. But anyway, you can see I basically stamped, dyed, cut out things for each page, and then I just want to go ahead and adhere these so that we can put our pages together. Now this is so sad. This is the Mossy Meadows cardstock, and I had one sheet left of the two-sided, and that's all I had left. But I still had a full sheet of the thick solid core. So I'm gonna, they match, right? But I'm gonna go ahead and use one of each, which is a little weird. It's a little weird, but you know, you do what you have to do. And so I'm going to go ahead and get my glue going here. And I basically want like a 1/2 inch all the way around. I think it's gonna look great. And I'm just sort of eyeballing it. I eyeball a lot of things. That doesn't mean I am perfect by any stretch. You can see that's pretty dry. I'm gonna do the other page as well. Let's see. I'm gonna raise up my camera just a little. I kind of feel like it's a little hard to see everything in the, there we go. I do a lot of gutting paper like this, and I realize that not everybody likes to take that extra step, and you just want to use the background. No problem. No problem at all. Just do it. It's gonna look great. And so let's just start with the left page, and that way I can get this put together. So this is Cherry Cobbler. With that sale right now, Cherry Cobbler is one of the colors that I purchased because it is like one of the deepest, most beautiful reds, right? It is gorgeous. And then I have that pear paper that I am going to put right underneath that Cherry Cobbler at even sides. Just make sure your pears are right side up. And this may not look Christmassy to you. Maybe you want it for something else, but I thought it would be really beautiful for, you know how you always take like a family photo, everybody in the Christmas tree, or, you know, something like that. Now, this is the two-sided cardstock, and you can see that it's two different colors, dark and light. And I actually like the lighter. So I'm gonna use the light color, and it's just gonna butt up to that yellow. So what happens with that is it looks like I have a whole strip going all the way across, but I really just have these little, you know, 1 or 2 inch squares that are, so I'm just pushing that in just a little bit. I tried to put my adhesive so that I could tuck, and there we go. Because I added this border on the back, these pieces were just a little bigger than what the pattern called for, so that's why I had to tuck under, but that's okay. Now, as far as a photo goes, I kind of like the idea of this being like the family photo, right? So I'm going to put this here temporarily as my placeholder. That is my tentative plan, right? And then I cut a whole bunch of these pieces to make a cool border that goes across the bottom. Now, I have gobs of ribbon. I have this ribbon that is left over from last year. It is the rustic striped ribbon, and it's in wild wheat, which was discontinued this year, but it is gold. It's essentially gold, and it's one of the most beautiful ribbons. I have other ribbon, like this one that matches. You can see. This one is in the red. Sorry, words escape me. But it has gold on it, so that would be really pretty also to use. Anything that you have would look great. I did go ahead and cut a strip of gold that I thought I could use at the top, underneath the red, or at the bottom, going across. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this across the bottom, and I just need to cut about 1 inch off because, like I said, I added that 1/2 inch on each side, so it made my pattern a little different. So it's basically 11 inches instead of 12. There we go. All right, now I'm ready to put my pieces in place, and I love the idea of doing that kind of rub and buff kind of thing on here. I think it's gonna look really nice. And the other thing that I think will look really good is if I add like pink gems. But I like the idea of these having a little bit of gold. So I might add that. I'm gonna leave that open. Let's organize our stuff here. So I have 2 things of pink. I'm just gonna lay out some of these pieces. I just want them to kind of flow across the page, and it's gonna flow across the page on the other side. Also, I did go ahead and cut a pear. I don't know whether I'm gonna use a pear, but I do kind of like the idea of these like this. So we have And I also have this in a couple of different colors. Let me get out my extra pieces here. You might notice I have a bunch of crystals in there. And the reason I decided to grab crystals is because I think that the berries would look really cool as crystals. And remember to cut, you could cut these in different colors, so some could be light and some could be dark, and you could, you know, mess around with these any way you want, make these the way you want them to look. All right, so let's see. I like the idea of, maybe I'll scrunch these over here. I'll put this behind here since it has a weird cut angle on it. And then I can put this pear over here. I wouldn't have to add a pear at all, right? I wouldn't have to. But I like how this looks. I'm gonna go ahead and attach at least the greenery to get started so that I can get those flowers put in place where I want them. The other thing that I think would look kind of nice is to have, like, if you wanted to do a ribbon across it, you could add some bows. Let me put that like that, and I'll add one here. All right, again, that looks crooked, but you get the idea. All right, poke, poke, poke. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my buff stuff, my polish. You could use any product. You could use your fingers if you don't mind getting messy. To me, it's messy. And oop, helps if your glue has dried. And so I'm just adding a little bit of gold to the leaves so that they pop a little bit. And remember, we added that gold at the top. In the spray. It's hard to see on camera, but it shows up a lot. I also did a little bit of spatter at the bottom, and there we go. It looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to add some dimensionals to the backs of these. Not everything needs to be popped up, but I think these flowers will look really good if they are. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and add my pear, and I'm going to add, I want to make sure and add glue to the top, because I want this stem to have a place to live. And I want it to adhere really well in the pear. There's that. All right. So what is everybody doing today? My daughter has is big into campaign history and history of Champaign-Urbana and stuff like that. And my husband's aunt passed away, maybe a year and a half ago or so. And she had this sewing kit that it was one of those wicker sewing kits that's really cool looking. You know what I'm talking about? Like the ones that everybody has, like a basket kind of thing. And, you know, really neat looking. Hold on, I'm just grabbing more pieces. And so I was going through it, and I had waited to go through it because Steve's aunt smoked, and I don't know if you guys have gone through somebody's stuff who has smoked a lot, but I was thinking I would never be able to rescue it because it's like, it was so strong. It was so strong. And so I thought, you know, it's been a year, let me get it out. Let me just see if I can get through it. And you know what? It's perfect. I've cleaned it 2 or 3 times, and on the outside of it, thinking that I could sell it or give it to someone who sews or whatever. I don't know. They were just going to donate it anyway. And so I like the idea of cleaning it up and having somebody get it, you know, who really loves it. Anyway, there were several things in there. It's a horrible smell. You're absolutely right. It's absolutely horrible. Horrible smell. And there were some campaign things in there that I'm trying to decide if I want that. I kind of do. I think I do. Anyway, so it had, like, I did not know that a lot of people did this, but they gave away little sewing kits with their campaign information on it. And inside there was like actual like pins and needles and thread, and it was an actual little sewing book kind of thing. It was so cool. And Jen and I were oohing and awing over it today. Does it need 2 pairs? I could put one there. It kind of looks cool. The pears, I wasn't careful. I did kind of a rocky rolly thing to try to get some green on there. This one has a little bit of peach. I used that. I used a yellow and then a little bit of peach on the side to make it look like it was blush. You know what I mean? Like, I think that looks pretty neat looking. I think I will do that. Anyway, so Jen woke up for just a little bit this afternoon, and I was showing her this sewing kit, and she was just, it's so cool to see all of this stuff in this sewing kit that's so old. I can't even tell you how fun it is to go through these things that are so retro. I mean, these were from the 60s and 70s, so, you know, my lifetime, but still, really, really neat. And Jen had never seen a lot of it, so it was really kind of neat to see, like, you know, the prices of things that from so long ago. Oh my gosh, the prices, wow, crazy, so cheap. Everything was so cheap. All right, so I have some Swarovski crystals, and these are in pink, and I don't need that many, but you can see they're a little bit bigger, and then I have some that are just a little bit smaller. And then I have some really tiny ones, but I thought it would be neat to make the actual berries on here the Swarovski crystals in pink, because that way, I hope you can see it, because that way, you know, it has some bling, has some sparkle, has a lot of sparkle, and it pulls out that peach kind of color, which I think is kind of neat looking. So anyway, so yeah, Jen was excited. And the other thing that we found that was another like campaign thing, there was a U of I didn't realize that there were elected offices at the U of I. Who knew? But there was a campaign thing in there that was like for one of the positions at the university. And so that was kind of neat. Excuse me. It was like a ruler. So a lot of campaign rulers and stuff like that. And then there was another sewing kit that was given out by Kay's Merchandise Mart. Oh my gosh. Like, how long ago? It was when it was out on Mattis Avenue. Do you guys remember that? My gosh, that was a long time ago. Okay, now I also pulled some gold and red. I didn't know what would look good, but I think these are bigger, and I think these would look really nice scattered, you know. And of course you can use any gems you want. I just was pulling stuff out of Stephanie's stash, and I just think that is so pretty. It's so pretty. Now the other thing I want to do to this page, and the last thing I'm going to do, is I am going to put some of that gold gilding on the pear. And then on page 2, do you guys want me to go ahead and, I guess I haven't been on for a full hour. I could go ahead and work on page 2. Let me go ahead and grab it. It's essentially the same thing, right? It's basically the same. So let me just make some space for my pieces. And I'm gonna leave a little, remember, I'm gonna leave a little gap for tucking. I'm gonna eyeball, basically centering. I have my pear, and I did this approximately a ½ inch from the top. So if it's not in direct alignment with page 1, oh well, but you could always put it side by side and make sure. Oh, see, not bad, not bad, Connie. Okay. So I'm just tucking under. Now you can see how that pear paper is overwhelming when you look at it in a 12 by 12 sheet. But when you use it in little bits like this, it's softer and it's easier on the eye. And so think about that when you're making your cards or your pages or whatever, about how you could maybe cut it into shapes to put on your page, into squares around your page. I mean, so many options, right? see if I can cut this straight. That's usually my problem when I mess around like that, is that I don't cut straight. Okay, there's that. And then I have, again, similar situation, right? I want my pears over here. I'm gonna have my pieces. The other thing, I was kind of messing around with softening that pink a little bit, and I thought about adding some like vintage photo or some distress to it to soften it so it's not quite so pink. Because when you look at this, it's like pink, that's pink. And if you want it to look a little more vintage, I think you would need to soften those colors a little bit. And so I messed around with it too much, but I did mess around with it, and I thought, we'll see. We'll see what I can do with that. I'm just getting out some of my other pieces that I cut over here off camera, sorry. And some of the edge of that die cut embossing folder, when you cut that, you get a couple of little pieces like this that are like sharp edges, like here and here. And you don't have to use those. You get plenty of other pieces, but I did go ahead and cut them because I thought, well, it's like a big leaf. I don't know if I need that. I don't know. But the main thing is I just want to make sure that I have enough to go across the page, right? And stick down so that I can make them gold. So this, if I'm sure that anybody who's into mixed media is looking at me going, yeah, that's not really mixed media. But for me, it is. For me, this is, you know, you go above and beyond what you're normally used to doing. And I've added the distress spray. I've added some of this, what I call rub and buff. It's actually gilding polish. I know that Art Anthology sells a lot of gilding polishes. If you are looking for more of this style, Art Anthology sells them. I have probably 10 or 11. You know, the interesting thing about mixed media stuff is that I find a lot of it secondhand when I go crafty shopping, because I think, kind of like me, you know, some people just, like, people don't know what to do with it all. It's, you know, it's a lot. And so when you're not totally sure, it sits on your shelf forever, and then people are like, I'm gonna sell that, I never use it. So you got to get it out once in a while. And Christmas for me is like the perfect time to get that out. So I think I had intended initially I'd cut like a peach and a pink, not two pinks. It's gonna be mixed up, whatever. So make sure those are stuck down. Get out my polish again. And Stickles is amazing for stuff like this, because Stickles is like one of those really easy things to use. You just have to let your pages dry before you do anything else with them. And most of these are, you know, they're actually art supplies, which are acid-free and all of that. It's just, you don't want to put you wouldn't necessarily want to use this on like your vintage photos of your at your grandma's house, or you know what I mean. Like, you want to be careful. That's one thing that I noticed. Like some of my older photo albums and things, I would not have done this too, because it was so hard to get duplicates of pictures and stuff, you know. But now pictures are like really cheap, easy to get, easy to reprint. I think, do I want to put this over here? I think I will. And then I'm going to put dimensionals on this. I know that I have glue right there I need to deal with. The other thing that I considered putting on this page is I was looking at different title options, and there are a lot of options, but I really liked that joy, you know, and I thought about putting that on there. I don't know how I got a dimensional on there. All right. Should I go ahead and use that pink? Maybe I should. It'll look really different from the other ones. I could flip it over. Nope, too late. My main thing I'm watching for is to make sure I don't have any cut edges. On that greenery that's showing, you know. All right, and we need some centers. I could use crystals for the centers too, but I did not. All right, I'm looking at comments. So this one, they had a, let me see, hold on a minute. They kind of arranged these like a photo puzzle kind of thing, like this in the square. But since I covered up some of the square, I thought perfect for a title or something, or a place for some journaling, you know. For this one right here, instead of using dimensionals, to make it pop up a little, I would cut it out multiple times in white paper and stack it so it's a little thicker, and that would give it a little more oomph on the page. But I'm just gonna adhere it flat at this moment. And then I am back to my crystals. Boy, oh, I just flipped them all over the place. You probably saw me do that off camera because I'm a slob. All right, let's see if I can use the ones I flipped over. Oh, seriously. I really am kind of sloppy. I'm a sloppy crafter. Let's see. I need one of those, you know, diamond dot style containers that flip your gems over for you. You know, they have like little ridges in them. Okay, let's see. All right, so I have these, or I can, you know, I have different options. Basically, I cut photo mats in different sizes, different ways, because I really wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted. These ones are so big, they're easier to pick up since they're not flipped for me. It would be nice to put them in the center of the flowers too. Ooh, that's really nice. I might do something like that. I like that. All right, I think that's good. All right, let me see here. Pull in. I'm closing the stuff that I can make a mess with. And I'm pulling in my pages. We're right at an hour, which is perfect for me. Basically, I, you know, pre-cut the paper, but that took me about 5 minutes. So this layout took just about an hour and maybe 10 minutes. Not bad, not bad. And it would be really easy for me to, you know, flip these around, change these up if I wanted to. I have a tendency to use larger photos. That's why I would be more inclined to do this. But you get the idea, right? Okay, so let me zoom out just a little so you can see both pages. Ta-da! All right. So there's my pages for today. I am going to put a little of that gold flake on the pears. And then all I'm gonna have to do after that is add title and journaling. I love journaling with a white pen or a gold pen on this really dark paper. So I'm kind of excited about the idea of putting a little journaling down below the photos. The other thing that would be really amazing is to use the gold foils to matte, you know, the pictures a little bit and add a little bit more gold. And I think it's not super Christmassy. If you didn't want to make it Christmassy, you wouldn't have to, but if you wanted to, it's a very subtle, soft Christmas idea. And so this is my version of Christmas in July. Okay, I think that is everything today. Don't forget the 20% off cardstock sale. I'm jazzed about that because I can't believe I've already gone through a couple of packs of the colors. I often substitute Close to My Heart out of my stash, and I am running out of some of those colors, so I'm using this sale to stock up a little bit. So I hope that you guys take advantage of that. And don't forget, don't use your rewards on a sale item. Use your rewards on things that'll pop up later, and it'll be worth it. It'll be awesome. So, all right, have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.